Hello, everybody, and welcome to Masters of Real Estate. Today, I have a really good friend on the line, Matt Theriault, that I've known for over 15 years in real estate. We actually started together in this space with the same education, the same starting point, and now we've actually worked together so many years now that I trust him implicitly. He's got a wealth of knowledge, teaches other people all about real estate investing. So thanks so much, Matt, for joining us. Really appreciate it. Can you give us a little background on yourself? What got you started in real estate in the first place, man?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, back when, thanks for having me, by the way. This is awesome. Good to see
Yeah.
you again. You're looking really slender there, buddy. You working out, hitting the weights?
I lost a lot of weight, and try to keep it up, try to keep up with the kids. So
Yeah. You've been maintaining. You look great. Um, so yeah, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I spent the next, 15 years of my life in the music business of all places. And then the Napster thing came along and crushed that whole industry. And I basically, at the age of 34, I had to start life over again. And that's right about the time where you and I crossed paths. I became a real estate agent and then quickly decided that I wanted to sit more on the other side of the desk and, represent myself and act on my own behalf as a buyer and a seller. And so I made this huge investment in this education where I met you. And, that was what I guess I've been in real estate longer than I was in the music business now. Cause that was it was like 20 years ago, Maddie.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was like, we say 15, but it's like, well, gosh, we've been saying that for like 5 years now. So I guess it's like 20 now.
I don't want to admit that it's been 20 years in this space, so
I
I
know it.
totally understand. I think I quit my CPA firm job in 2006 to go into real estate and started that education in like a 2005 timeline, something like that. So
Yeah,
yeah, 20 years, man. That's
that's
a long time.
21 years, dude. Oh my
Yeah,
God. It gets worse
that's
every
crazy.
time I talk to you.
That's awesome. And
But,
and you know, we started off working together in the turnkey space, and you're still being able to help people do that. I think a lot of people don't understand the benefits of some of the turnkey stuff, because you and I both know the pain that you go through when you're, buying properties, renovating them, tenanting them, setting up property management, doing that whole thing. Can you talk a little bit about that and, how you help people to, get assets and develop financial freedom for themselves, man? Because it's
for
really cool that you
sure.
do that.
For sure. When I took that education where we met and, I got this little purple book. It's a really rare book. I doubt anyone has ever heard of it. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it teaches you this concept of escaping the rat race, right? So just get your monthly passive income to exceed your monthly expenses. And then all of a sudden, now you're free. You might not be rich, right? But you are free. And having experienced both now, I think that's actually a better place to be. But, real estate really provides the average person access to that more than any other asset available to the average person, right?
Mhm.
And so I went out and I just kind of pursued that and just followed the plan. And in 3.5 years, I was able to get myself to escape to where my monthly expense, or excuse my monthly passive income from real estate, it supported me, right? It supported everything personally in my life. When you go bankrupt in music and then you start over, and I actually started over bagging groceries before I got into real estate, you start attracting a lot of attention from your friends and family and your network. And they're like, wait a minute, what are you doing? You're just bagging groceries and now you're playing golf on a Tuesday while I have to go to work. And so everyone wants to pick your brain. Everyone wants to take you to dinner and say, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? And that's kind of how our turnkey operation evolved and came about, is that they saw what I did and they were like, well, you do it for me. And this was before I even knew what I didn't know what turnkey investing was at the time. They just said, would you do it for me? I was like, yeah, I'll do it for you for a fee. And so that's kind of how that started. And so, here we are, I guess, yeah, pretty close to probably 16, 17 years of the turnkey operation functioning. And, we probably do 10 to 15 of those houses a month today. It's just helping busy professionals build a real estate portfolio in their spare time, so they have the potential to retire much earlier than they had anticipated. And so that's what we're doing. And I think right now, in hindsight, is probably the best decision they had all made. And I think it's going to be continued to be the best decision just based on our economy. And like, we're all getting really privy to what inflation does to your purchasing power. But I think people are becoming more savvy and sophisticated on what inflation does to your long-term fixed rate debt as well. And how you can just get on the
Right.
right side of the system and make the system work for you while everyone else is complaining about how the system works. But once you know the rules, it's a huge advantage. And the great
It's
thing about real estate, just borrow money, a depreciating asset, to buy income producing real estate, an appreciating asset. And that's whether you know how it works or not. that's all you need to do, and it works whether you know how the intricacies of it. And so that's what we've been doing, and that's been a big portion of the mission. I just came out with a book this year called Escape, and basically real estate is the answer to every problem that we got here financially.
It's really interesting because a lot of people think that if they're going to go invest in real estate, right, they have to go do all the work, right? They got to go find the property. They got to find the contractor, find the manager, manage the whole thing, get it up and running and everything. And, you've developed a system, and I used to do this quite a bit and teach other people the same types of strategies. So I understand exactly where you're coming from and the benefits that you provide these busy professionals, that they don't have to go do all this work. They're busy making their money and finding ways of creating wealth through their own job. At the same time, they don't have to actually go through and do it all. You can serve this up on a silver platter for them and say, hey, here's, debt that can get decimated during inflation. Here's appreciating asset, rental increases that happen on a consistent basis. The renovations are done. You're able to actually get massive tax benefits too, and being able to front load those depreciation benefits with cost segregation studies and, get bonus depreciation. I mean, this is your biggest expense is your taxes. And I buy properties every year just for the tax benefits alone, let alone the cash flow that comes from it. And the benefits are so great that people don't realize that they don't have to do all that work, and they can compound their growth exponentially through just buying the asset and holding it long term. I did the math on all the properties that I flipped in the past, and I shouldn't have done the math because I literally cost me $50 million worth of growth and equity. Luckily, I held a bunch of them, and I made so much more money on my holds than I ever did flipping properties. And that was way more passive than I ever had to do flipping. So, have you had the same kind of success in doing that type of thing on your holds as well? Or
yeah, on our education side of our business, I've been able to speak to so many people in so many different environments. And I'd always say, just go up and talk to the guy that's been in the business for 20 years and ask him if they were to do anything differently, what would they do? And almost across the board, they're always going to say something to this effect. I wish I would have bought more and sold less. Right. And now I'm the 20-year-old guy. Like, I'm the old crotchety guy that's been doing this for a long time. And I could say the same thing, is that I wish I would have bought more and I wish I would have sold less, because I've been saying this lately as everyone's complaining and hemming and hawing about adjustment in some of the inventory across the country. I said, there has never, ever been a bad time in history to buy real estate.
Yeah,
There's never been a bad time.
I think a lot of people think, hey, there might be some, additional supply coming on the market, and every single market is completely independent of each other. Yes, there's interest rate environments and economic things that are on a macro basis that can affect the market. But long term, look at what's going to happen with inflation. You think the government's ever going to stop printing money? It's ridiculous, right? We got wars happening. We have, tariffs and things like that. We have all types of inflationary factors that are occurring. So no matter what little blip occurs on any down market, which we haven't seen yet, we're still seeing rising prices, even with additional supply of inventory that we're seeing to a small degree, but they're still going to continue to rise. They're still going to continue long term to do that. 1 year to the next doesn't matter. You're holding this long term to be able to build your wealth and preserve your wealth more than everything else, because you better be able to beat that inflation on your cash flow and your appreciation long term too.
Yeah, you can't outwork inflation anymore, right? And I always say this, like, if you go to the Dave Ramsey School of Finance, most people just don't make enough to save enough for that math to work out. That's the problem. Like, compounded interest is the eighth wonder of the world if you can put in enough money to get it to compound, right? But it just doesn't go fast enough. And by the time it does actually hit, if you did everything correctly, I mean, you got 3/4 of your life is now behind you. Right. So it's like, now you don't even get to enjoy it. You spent all this time saving it, and now you're just going to die, and you're going to, pass it on to your kids or whatever. And what a miserable way to go about it. So real estate helps you sidestep all of that.
I think that old way of thinking, the Dave Ramsey way of thinking, is completely false. Maybe for some people that, there's always people that shouldn't be doing any kind of business or running a business. They just don't have, I'll say, the grit to be able to get through some of that stuff. At the same time, you look at borrowing money and the decimation of that debt during inflationary environments. And it's one of the best things you could ever do to borrow millions of dollars of debt, as long as it's good debt and not bad debt, right? So if you're creating income off of that and keeping your leverage ratios within reason, so you're being conservative and not bleeding from cash flow in a negative cash flow situation, it compounds your wealth exponentially to that whole nother level. And you teach a lot of people about this now, right? So you have classes and stuff like that where you teach people. Can you talk a little bit about, the types of strategies you teach people other than just the turnkey aspect of this?
Sure. And I do so much on the YouTube channel these days now as well. So, like, it's not really behind the paywall anymore, because it's so important that this society, like our financial system, really globally, it's built on debt. It doesn't survive without debt.
Right.
And, and like I had said earlier, like, we could go into a master class of economics and money printing and how the Fed works and all that kind of stuff, but you don't really need to know all of that.
Right.
I always say that inflation is an equal opportunity money destroyer, right? It's going to destroy your cash just as much as it destroys the bank's cash.
Right.
So if you're going to go out and buy assets, do you want to use your cash or do you want to use somebody else's cash? Well, use somebody else's cash and let inflation destroy theirs, right? And so it's like, if you just take on long-term fixed rate debt and buy income producing real estate, that's all that you really need to know. And whether you do that on your own or whether you hire a turnkey operation to do it for you, you still get the benefits of it. That's the essence of the entire message, is that there's that expression that says, don't fight the Fed, right? Well, when you try to go Dave Ramsey's route, you're fighting the Fed. You are becoming a part of the system that fuels the winners. You don't want to be on that side. You want to be on the side of the winners that gets the fuel. And that's how you do it on a small scale, like for the average person. And what other asset or investment out there is available to where it buys itself or somebody else buys it for you? Because you talked about the tax benefits, we've talked about the appreciation, we talk about the cash flow. But I think one of the bigger benefits to be able to build a portfolio fast and get rich much faster than how most people go about it is you have a tenant in there giving you the money every month to pay the mortgage. Mm-hmm. Right? You come in with 20% down in a traditional sense, and that tenant is going to pay the 80% of it for you. Where else can you do that? Right? You can't do that anywhere else. No one else is going to buy it for you. So, I'm just preaching to the choir here. Real estate's great. Real estate's great, right? But it's not even a real estate conversation. It's a money conversation disguised as a real estate conversation. It's just the vehicle that allows the average person to get in alignment with how the system works.
And I think, people need to understand from a portfolio building standpoint. I always tell people that they should not only hold hard assets that they control, like single family homes or small multifamilies or duplexes and things like that, and hold those long term where you have complete control to sell those. You're qualifying for the financing on these, and usually you're able to qualify utilizing debt service coverage ratio loans or rental loans as well, and you're able to do that. And they're not even qualifying you as a person based on your income anymore. They're doing it based on the rental income and making sure it pencils there. And it's important to have that hard asset that you actually control and own. But then also, I show people investing passively. If you think, hey, I want to invest in a really large Class A, B multifamily building, you don't have to go bring in millions and millions of dollars and qualify for it and do all the work yourself. You can invest in different syndications passively with operators that specialize in that and bring in $50,000 or $100,000 or smaller chunks of money where you're not bringing in millions, and you can have someone else do all that work for you. But it's important to be diversified into both direct assets you own as well as the passive assets with other operators, so that you have your wealth diversified into different asset classes, different markets of the country, different operators you're working with, as well as your own supply. Because, think about the power over a period of time of holding 10 houses free and clear where they're just you're just being able to create that cash flow for yourself where you have a solidified base of cash flow bringing in. Now, don't get me wrong. If I had them all free and clear, I'd probably go refinance them so that I can use that leverage you're talking about, because you get way more appreciation growth on your 25% down versus 100% equity, right? Because you want to decimate the bank's debt, so just like you're talking about, right? So I think that's important to understand. And what are the things that you teach about on your YouTube channel? What is your YouTube channel so people know, how to follow you? Because you got some great content that you come out with all the time.
Yeah, Epic Real Estate Investing on your YouTube dial. And it's really it started off as very much a practical, technical, strategic, tactical type channel. Like, this is how you go generate leads. This is how you talk to sellers. This is how you get properties under contract. This is how, you structure your creative financing. And we still do all of that, but it's on a much bigger scale, because I think that the bigger, broader message is that, I don't know what you think about this, man. You and I very rarely, I think, disagree on anything. Makes for a really good podcast when everyone agrees.
I'll find something. I'll find something.
But I honestly believe that 10 years or less, we will be a nation of renters. And there's going to be two types of people in this country: those that pay rent and those that collect it. And I think that window is closing really quickly. And just the evidence is that, the interest rates go up and they stay up, and the prices still go up. That's not good. That hasn't really happened ever in history.
And it's affordability, right?
We have this huge supply-demand imbalance, right? We had, like in 2008, we had more houses than people. That's how you get a housing bubble. But now we have more people than we have houses. We're not building fast enough to keep up with the population. So now we have a people bubble, right? And so the housing, when you have the demand, and it's funny because if we were talking about, say, baseball cards or Pokemon cards or just rare, coin collecting, when the demand is greater than
non-essential, right? So
right, but just in the concept of supply and demand, if the demand is really high for this Michael Jordan rookie card, then that rookie card is going to continue to increase in value.
Right.
And everybody understands that. Everyone's like, yeah, no duh. Tell me something I don't know. But when you apply that same logic to real estate, people don't get it. It just goes over their head. Oh, it's going to crash. It's a cycle. It always crashes. You're an idiot if you buy real estate. I'm just like, no, the supply and demand is like that Michael Jordan rookie card. And you got a bunch of people that want it, but not with real estate. They just don't want it. They need it. They need a roof over their head. And so I think that that's going to continue. There's nothing that's given me any inclination that that's going to change. There could be something globally that happens. And then if that happens, we've got bigger fish to fry anyway. But with regard to just the basic concept of supply and demand, real estate's only going in one direction. And it's already, I forget the stats. They change so frequently. But I think already 60% of the population can't afford a house now. That's like the highest number ever. And that number, it just continues to go up. It's going to, in 2 years, it'll be 65%. It's going to be 70%. It's going to be 75%. I think in just 5 or 6 years, they'll be like, you'll go to someone's house and they're like, wow, this is a nice house. What do you pay for rent? It's like, I own it. And they're like, oh, you own it? How did you do that? You bought a house? Like, I think it's going to be that extraordinary here and not too long from now. So I really think you need to, what do they say? The rising tide lifts all boats, right?
And I think
you got to get some boats in the water because this tide is rising.
I think the gap between wealthy and middle class and poor is widening massively. And when you look at the affordability aspect where interest rates are not dropping, affordability is getting worse because prices, even though we're seeing some, changes in supply and demand metrics right now, they're still having a lack of affordability on the market where the pricing is still going up consistently across the board. And it's not going to change. I mean, you look at the amount of money they're printing and it's like this. That's not possible for these asset prices not to rise. And that's why one of the reasons why they keep printing, because the wealthy own assets. long term like this. And this kind of leads me to another topic, which actually, I really love teaching dads and busy dads. Like you and I are both parents, how to create freedom in their life to go spend more time with their kids. And I think, my son was actually watching, I make him watch my YouTube channels, not for my own ego, but so his own education. And actually your channel came up and you were up there, and they were like, oh, he said his name is Matt too. And I was like, yeah, watch this guy, and it was pretty funny because, he's 10 years old now and I'm teaching him the concepts of financial education. He's actually also learning some different things. I think you and I were talking, I was telling you, he's taking some welding classes and some 3D printing classes. I'm going to get him into AI and things like that. But the concepts of buying these assets now that are going to appreciate long term for you is key. And I really want to teach my kids that type of concept because I feel like that window is closing. And how do we get them to be thinking about this right now to be able to explode their wealth long term? And, to be able to teach their kids how to do that. And that's, if we can't figure it out, then our kids are not going to be able to figure it out either. And how do we become free so we can teach our kids how to become free as well? And if people don't learn these concepts, it's their kids are going to be wage slaves for the rest of their lives as well, and having to trade time for money instead of trading time for the assets and building assets that create that freedom for themselves. And so have you talked to your son and things like that about these concepts? And you said he's 14 now, right? That's pretty awesome, man. I know it's going fast. So
yeah, that hasn't been an easy conversation at home because so this is what I did. I've got a garage full of, I'm in my mid 50s now. And just like anyone in their mid 50s, you got a garage full of junk now, right? And I just said, here, the garage is yours. This is your new business. Just go grab one item at a time and sell it on eBay. Right. I even built them a custom GPT saying all you have to do is take a picture of it now. And that custom GPT now goes and scrapes eBay for all similar objects. It brings them out the lowest and the highest price. It brings them back the best SEO description. Like it brings them back everything. All he's got to do is copy and paste, take pictures, copy and paste. And that doesn't excite him whatsoever.
He's got to have enough pain to have the will to want to go do that, right? You got to be like, hey, you're not going to eat today if you don't go sell something, right? So, and give him that pain, because that's what pushed us, right? Is that pain, right? I was at my CPA firm going, I just can't do this anymore. I want to cry on the way to work. You were sitting there working in the music industry and got decimated, right? That pain is what pushes you to actually move forward, I think, right? And so a lot of kids that nowadays don't have that level of pain, right? Everything's easier. And people that, have developed wealth, the people like ourselves that have been able to, get involved in real estate and do these types of strategies, we have a hard time teaching the kids that pain, where it's like, no, get the heck outside and go break your ankle or something, or go do something, stupid like we used to do and come back when the street lights are on and type of thing. It's like, go through the same types of ups and downs and trials and tribulations and try stuff, to make them want to do that. My son wants to be a YouTuber. He was all excited because he got 1,000 views on one of his videos the other day. And he's like, oh my God, Dad, I got more views, and I'm like, no, the YouTuber, that's great, but like, I want him to learn financial education too, not just to be the YouTuber that he sees out there. So, those YouTubers, they don't make any money, so just like you're a YouTube channel, right? So in my YouTube channel. So, but they see me doing that. He's like, are you a YouTuber, Dad? I'm like, no, I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a real estate investor, even though I still do YouTube and content development consistently. Right. So, but how are you going about, on the other side of things, bringing your family up and trying to teach them? I know your wife is involved with you in this stuff and, helping you with that aspect of the turnkey business. And so it's got to be, ingrained in their mind. He'll probably find out when he's like 22 years old or so, saying, wow, I really got to start making money, in that case. So you talk about these concepts at home like this a lot, or?
Yeah, I talk about it all the time, and maybe that's why he resists it. Because every day I've got a new video that I'm posting. So I'm talking about the concept and the idea behind it and why we're posting this one and what the lessons are. And it's weird because his mom, we're both such go-getter entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? We're both hustlers, and neither one of us came from an entrepreneurial family, which is weird. Like, so this family of employees raised these two entrepreneurs, and now we have two entrepreneurs, and like, I think we're raising an employee, right? I mean, at least he just hasn't found it yet. So
Right.
he's just 13. He'll be 14 next month. So we're giving him some time, but we talk about it all the time. And, at some point, he's going to have to figure it out. And
I think it's he's seeing you though. That's the
Mhm.
thing, is it's ingrained in his head whether he wants to admit it or not. My little sister is 21 years old now and came to me to one of her first networking events the other day, and is now finally interested in finding a way to making more money and developing freedom in her life and things like that,
Right.
after years of saying, shut up, Matt, I don't want to hear it, I don't care,
Yeah.
about your financial education topics and things like that. Of course, maybe I started when she was like 5, but at the same time, she's like, that's enough. I don't care at all. I'm in my own world, right? It takes that growing to get to that point.
It'll click. But I
Yeah,
still can't help but think at 14 years old, I had a paper route.
yeah, yeah,
I went
yeah.
door to door selling magazines. I
Right,
had the lemonade stand. Like, I had all of that. And that's just something I wanted to do. Like, I was attracted to it.
right,
Um,
right.
but, it's just, I guess that's why we're all individuals, right? We
You
have
got to
our own
go through your
journeys.
own path and do that
Exactly.
for sure. I totally understand. So when you're out there and you're teaching other people how to create this freedom in their life, how do you go about doing that? Do you have classes that you do and things like that where you're teaching them in a specific like mastermind group or coursework that you take them through? And what does that look like
Yeah,
from the education side?
we have an online platform, Epic Invest Ed, where you can go and you can access videos and stuff, and it's self-paced learning, and that's pretty common out there. There's lots of different avenues for that. You could probably go and get everything you need right from YouTube for free. I've kind of moved more from like a teacher-pupil type relationship to more of a partnership type
Okay.
relationship, to where, let's, rather than me showing you how to make money, let's go make some money together. And it's our earn while you learn program.
That's
And
great.
they basically, they're going to learn the whole business, but they start by just figuring out how to generate leads. And then we have a web portal that they can turn it into if they want to. But they can turn it in, they submit it to us, and then my team takes over. So we go ahead and so we call the seller for them, we negotiate the contract, we get it under contract, and then we go ahead and we find the buyer, we flip it, and then we split that with them 50-50. So they basically do 10% of the work, we do 90% of the work, but they still get half the profits. And then they just kind of learn vicariously, watching the rest of the process after they're done with their part. So that's what we've been doing mostly. And it's good for me too, because it generates leads for me. So I don't have to spend my time doing that. So I can coach and be a full-time practitioner in that
Right.
way. And then it also allows them to learn, which is what they want to do, but they actually get to make money while they're learning. They don't have to learn it all before they actually get to start, getting this tangible asset, this payday, and seeing cash in their bank account.
That's a really unique concept to be able to do this. Instead of making them pay for all this education and everything, they're learning while they do it and being able to actually develop those assets and, walking them through that method. And the hardest part, a lot of this is sales and lead development. And you really learn a ton by actually going out and doing leads. I remember back in college, I was raising capital or for donations for UC Santa Barbara for the school on phone calls all day long, just constantly on the phone, getting hung up on. It was a really hard thing to do, but I'll say it put hair on my chest, right? It gave me
Right.
that grit to be able to say, I don't care how many times people hang up on me, I'm going to keep moving forward and pushing forward. And so you helping them get that start there, that's where it all starts, is the lead development aspect and finding the people that are willing to sell their property at a discount, that can be able to, you can help solve their problems. And a lot of people think that, hey, oh, wait, you're trying to grab properties from people that are at a discount, or taking advantage and all this stuff. But in reality, you're not going to get the purchase unless you take them from this position over here to this position over here, that seller, and really help them any way possible, right? So they have a problem that they need to get rid of. Maybe they're neck deep in credit card debt, and you can wipe all that out and help them within a couple of weeks get closed on that house and sell that house to where now they're in a way better position. And I think realizing that sales aspect and that, property acquisition really is just a matter of helping people. A lot of people don't realize that, and they think that it's, much more difficult than it really is. And you show them all the new tools on how to help them with seller finance strategies. And I still remember back in the day some of your offer strategies where you would do, 3 different offers, right? Like a seller financing one, an all cash one. Can't remember the last one involved, but you probably tell me. So, but yeah, so there's just different strategies that you can use to be able to take a deal down. And the more tools you have in your tool belt, the better you're going to be at taking more deals down. And you're doing a ton every single month. I don't wish that on people because that's a lot of work. I remember doing it myself, and I'm like, I can't. It's too much now. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
no,
tell me.
it's problem
Yeah, go
solving.
ahead.
It's problem solving, right? And you just develop structure after structure. Each transaction has a new lesson in it that you just kind of, okay, I'm gonna remember that for the next one. And eventually that toolbox just gets really, really full, and you've got a solution, you got a tool for everything.
That's awesome, man. Well, tell me a little bit. How do people reach you? How do people get a hold of you? Do you want them to go to your YouTube channel, or what's the best way to get a hold of you, man?
Yeah, so I guess those would be the 2 ways. The YouTube channel is Epic Real Estate. If you want to look into the partnership program, if that's something that you want to do and kind of get your hands dirty and see how this whole thing works, you can go to epicearnwhileyoulearn.com. And then,
Okay.
or you just want to dip your toe in the water and see what it's all about over here. You can go to myescapebook.com. You can get my book for $4. It's $20 on Amazon. You get it for $4 there, and I'll give you a free course that actually Robert Kiyosaki asked me to make for his community, and so that you get
Nice.
that with the book.
Awesome. That's great, man. And if you guys want, we have quick analysis sheets on our website, MathewOwens.com, where you can plug in 5 numbers and know if you have a flip or a hold, or, what kind of profits that breaks down at. We got master classes as well on how to raise capital, how to do your due diligence on your investments and things like that. So feel free to go to MathewOwens.com as well. And I'll put a link to your book and things like that on this video as well. So if anybody wants that, I highly recommend the education. You're such a wealth of knowledge, man, and I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today, man.
Super. Thanks for having me, Matt. Let's not wait so long till we do it the next time.
Yes, absolutely, bro.
All right.
All right. Talk to you, man.
Do you want to learn how to create financial freedom in your life through real estate and take your investing business to the next level? If so, you can follow us in one of the following ways. First, you can take one of our free webinars on how to analyze property, how to raise capital for real estate, and how to market and find deals. 3 of the key pillars to becoming a successful real estate investor. Number 2, you can join us on our mailing list where you'll get tips and tricks on real estate investing directly to your inbox. And number 3, you can take our 6-month real estate course that teaches you every aspect of real estate investing you can think of, and more importantly, create financial freedom in your life through real estate investing strategies that I teach. If you want a master's in real estate in 6 months, this course is for you. We're going to go over how to raise money, promissory notes, syndications, fixing and flipping, buy and hold investing, tax and legal structures, self-directed retirement accounts, financial education, how to run a business, how to market and find your deals, and most importantly, how to create that financial freedom in your life so that you can stop trading your time for money and create passive real estate cash flow that you can live off of. If you're interested, go ahead and click on one of the links below, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the other side.